Welcome to Nutty Buddy Entertainment. The Great.
Well, let's start with Luke. Luke, what's one great that you had? Just one. Pick one, and then we'll come back to you. What's one great you had for the movie?
The entire thing, Chris. One thing in particular, I would say the biggest gripe with this version of Spider-Man is that he was more like Iron Man 2.0. And that's really not who Spider-Man ever was. And it's just not who Spider-Man is. Like, anyone who's liked Spider-Man before knows that that's not him. He makes his own suit. He's kind of struggling to make ends meet. That's just not even been close to what we've gotten. So the fact that they created a story where he had to grow up and then he turns into, basically by the end of the movie, the version of Spider-Man that we know and love is awesome. It's fantastic. So there's one thing.
Yeah, it was a great reboot. How did you feel, Travis, about them rebooting Spider-Man and kind of bringing him back to his roots?
I like the version with Tony Stark helping him and like giving him that suit and everything because, well, I guess it was for that time that was needed because Thanos and everything in that time was like so advanced that he needed basically every advantage, but now he's going back to his original ways. So I guess he doesn't really need that suit anymore, but it doesn't really, I'm not really either way. It doesn't really bother me for or against that, but.
Okay, so you didn't really mind I'm with you, actually. I didn't really mind the different storyline. I am kind of glad, though, they went back to where he's going to be sort of a ground level hero. I think at the time, too, in the MCU, it would be hard to be a hero without being part of the Avengers, right? So because all the heroes are known, but now that Shield's gone and all the more popular Avengers are mostly gone, it seems like the right time to reset. Chris, how did you feel about that?
I think that was great. That was, I mean, if we're going to get ahead, that would probably be my pick for the good. I think it's a really good direction going forward. I do think it's kind of funny that it's like the end of a trilogy and it took 3 movies to get to the point kind of where he was approximately 1 hour into the first Raimi movie. But, you know, whatever. That's fine. That's not a big deal.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, while we're at you, did you have a great? What was your first great for the movie?
Well, I would say we can only pick one. I would like to pick 2 people because I think Andrew Garfield was a revelation in this. I didn't care very much for either of his 2 movies. I thought they were very mid, and I don't remember being too impressed with his interpretation of the character. But I thought he was awesome in this, hit all the right notes. I propose that they make a really drastic decision and boot Twink Holland from this series and just refresh it with Garfield as the main Spider-Man from now on. So that would be 1. And then 2, Willem Dafoe is also great in this. He didn't miss a beat from 19 years ago or whatever it was. And was a fantastic villain, and he pretty much elevated the movie by himself for me.
Yeah, I actually had both Andrew and Green Goblin as greats as well. So Andrew, to me, you're right. I didn't like his, and obviously I've talked with Luke about this especially, but his interpretation of Peter Parker wasn't great, but I always loved his Spider-Man. Like, I thought he was witty and cocky. So I agree with you there. And he kind of stole the show for me. Like, I felt like he was almost the best of the Spider-Man. And then I agree with Green Goblin. His villain, it was so good. Who is your favorite Spider-Man, Travis, of the 3 that showed up?
I really do like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, but it's definitely Andrew Garfield. I've always liked him better than Tobey Maguire as well, but yeah, Andrew Garfield is probably my favorite.
Yeah,
I think it
kinda-
probably helped. Sorry, I think
Oh,
it
go
kind
ahead,
of
Chris.
helped. No, I'm a Toby guy all the way, but he was definitely, for my money, he was sleepwalking through this. He showed up to get paid, and that's fine. I respect that, but he was just kind of going through the motions, and Garfield was bringing the heat, so he probably looked even better in comparison. Not to take away from Garfield at all.
Yeah, I think Garfield nailed it. What did you think, Luke? Who was your favorite Spider-Man that showed up on screen of the three?
I mean, I like all three of them. They're all different enough in their own way. I think without having like the original Tobey Maguire version of Spider-Man is why we got all these superhero movies, pretty much, in my opinion. Like that's how we ended up here. So I think they kind of learned from that. They had to change it for Andrew Garfield's movies. So then he was a little bit different. And then we needed something else again, which is why, as Chris mentioned, it took us how many movies to get to like the first hour of the first Sam Raimi one. But that's because we've already seen these movies. So they had to do something different, which is why I liked what they did with Iron Man and all that stuff. I thought it was really cool that we got a different version of Peter Parker, and all that in this story. But I don't have a favorite per se. I don't feel the same way that Chris does. That I thought Tobey Maguire came across as the guy who's got the wisdom and knowledge and didn't need to get too involved and invested. He was the guy who kind of took a step back and stayed calm and did that. I didn't think he was any less awesome in this movie than I was expecting. I thought he looked pretty good for he's going on 50. So I thought they did pretty good. He's not even acting anymore. So I didn't come away from it thinking, oh, I wish he would have been better. I just thought that was great. I like all three of them. I think getting three versions of my personal favorite superhero, fantastic. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Luke, because I just felt like he was sitting back and he was more of the wiser one who allowed things to play out before he acted. Sort of, I've been through this before, so I'm going to be patient with what was going on with the other Peter Parkers. Travis, what was one of your greats?
We're probably going to talk about this a lot, but just the nostalgia that they brought back when all three of them were together, talking, making jokes. That was basically probably my favorite part of the whole movie, of just seeing all that come together in the end. So it just brought back good memories of what those old Spider-Man movies were.
Yeah, see, and that I agree with that. I think that was like nostalgia done right. Like we've been seeing a lot of these movies, especially the last three Star Wars movies that came out, the last trilogy, where they try to play on nostalgia and they fail. Well, in my opinion, I don't know. I know Luke feels the same
not
way.
in your opinion. Not in your opinion. Those movies are trash. Specifically, 9 can burn and die forever. It needs to get retconned out of existence.
Okay. Yeah. I feel the same way about 8, but so nostalgia, fan service, whatever you want to call it, sometimes they're used in negative ways, but I think in this movie it was used so beautifully and shown that if it's done right, people are going to love it and come to it. The movie made over $1 billion the first 2 weekends, so it's kind of extraordinary. And they didn't even release in China yet, which is, they might not, but they've made $1 billion without doing that, so that's pretty awesome. Okay, let's see. We basically hit all my grades, except I just wanted to say a great was Sony and Disney working together to get this done. Like, this is something that, like, obviously not all of us feel the same way about the movie, but I thought the movie was great. And I'm going to say that was a great that they got together and made this movie happen with everything. So let's see. Let's work it backwards. Travis, do you have another great?
I don't have another one.
How about you, Luke? You got another great?
Well, yeah, but I mean, this podcast is supposed to be like not forever long, so I feel like I shouldn't say everything. I mean, I can just keep
just
going.
One more.
I got another one. MJ and Ned's stories were actually relevant to what was going on. Background characters in these movies, specifically the love interest, have never had anything to do, really. I mean, you can maybe make a case for Emma Stone, but in my opinion, that was her point. Was the point of her was that she needed to die. That was like basically the point of her being in those movies. Like, she didn't have any. Whereas in this one, they actually had Zendaya play MJ to where, like, Peter Parker needed her. Like, and she had a lot to do with as the story was going. She was never there to be saved. It was not like she couldn't belong in this spot. Like they used her well, I thought. And Ned probably maybe less or so, but yeah, I know you're not big on what they did with his story. I think it was a really good idea.
Oh, we'll talk about that. Yeah,
We'll talk about that. I really thought that was great to me, because that's an aspect, we've talked about this a little, but I think that's why the Amazing Spider-Man movies failed, is because they didn't know how to treat their main, I guess, love interest character. They didn't know what to do, and then it fell apart once the story couldn't support it anymore. Mary Jane in the first 3 movies was just screaming for Spider-Man for three straight movies. Like, that's all she did was cry for help. So I really liked what they did with her in this movie. I mean, probably for 3 movies now, but this one specifically, I thought that was great. That was well done.
Yeah, I agree. I like that they at least had something to do, right? And that they were there and their stories meant something. And then the emotional attachments you have with the 3, and then at the end it makes Peter's decision more like power, like you feel it, like you know, correct, like he's making a sacrifice there at the end. So you're not like, oh well, he doesn't have friends anymore, you know. You felt like the loss there. Chris, you have another great?
No, that's pretty much just, I mean, their performances overall were good, but specifically those 2. So that's a great for me.
Yeah. Dr. Alfred Molina gets a shout out. I thought he was great in the movie as well. I did want to add with Andrew Garfield, him saving MJ. That was a great to me. I'm glad they did that. I really am, because you felt that in the theater. Real quick. So I know me and Luke, you got some?
I have many great things, Ryan. Real great. The scene of the 3 of them when they all came down with the different Spider-Man suits all on the screen at the same time. There was applause in our theater for when at one of them, just for them being on the screen with the 3 different versions of Spider-Man at the same time. That was a great. The conversation that they had on the Statue of Liberty was more than great. That was amazing. Every aspect of that was fantastic. If you were a Spider-Man fan, that was just, when they're talking about when he first was like, wait, what do you mean web shooters? When they're in the lab. And, I mean, all of that stuff was amazing, was the absolute best. And the fact that you came away from this movie maybe beforehand thinking one's better than the other, who's better than the other. And this was more of just a celebration of all of it. That was great. That was awesome. You came away from it not thinking, oh, well, this guy's better than this guy. But it was like, oh, hey, they're all friends. Why can't we all just be friendly about this? Why can't we all just get along? Why can't we just agree that Spider-Man's great? That was great. Yeah.
Or when Toby's like, you tell me you're amazing. No, I needed to hear it. Yeah, that was great. Okay. So with that in mind, I just wanted to ask. So I know me and Luke saw it twice together. Chris and Travis, when you guys went to the theater, what was the loudest, if at all, your theater got?
Definitely the loudest was when Garfield showed up, and slightly less so, well, I shouldn't say slightly, quite a bit less so when Toby showed up. And I think that was it as far as applause, which is 2 times too many for me because I'm a grump and I'm anti-theater applause. So
okay. You see, it's funny because I'm half and half with you. I actually like it when it's applause, but then I don't, because then you miss things. Like so I'm sort of with you. Travis, what about you? What was the loudest your theater was?
Well, it was pretty loud when Daredevil showed up. I was not expecting it to get that loud for that. And then 2 more times, definitely when Andrew Garfield showed up, that was probably the loudest. But then when he saved MJ, they got a pretty loud roar for that too. So
yeah, that too.
Yeah, that was loud for us. I think ours, Luke, was when Garfield showed up as well, but it was loud throughout, like there, because we went opening night. Well, you did too, Travis. So yeah, it was loud throughout. Well, that was our great for Spider-Man No Way Home. Just some of our greats. Let us know in the comments below what were some of your greats of this movie. It was a really epic movie, so I'm sure you have a lot. If you'd like to listen to the rest of the podcast where we do the good, the bad, and the ugly, the link of the podcast will be down below. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.